Good evening all, I believe you're with us. As always, still not very good with technology. So if you're about and you're with us, please say hello so I know that you are there. It would be lovely to make sure that you can hear us and you can see us and that you're with us. So please say hi. Hope you're all okay. Hope you're having a good day. Today we have got myself and we've got Peter. Let's see if we can get Peter to say a little hello. There he is at the end of my...
How are we all doing, all right?
My messy room. So he's with us today. I really shouldn't show you that view, should I? It's awful. And you can possibly see all the stacks of cards around the room. We've just got so many cards building up here at the moment from the design team and us for different bits and projects. So yeah, we're sort of been overrun slightly. I can see that we've got Kim with us. Good evening, Kim. Lovely to have you with us. Thank you for joining us this evening. Now, lovely to hear. Oh, Kim says hello, Pete. That's lovely too. Pete says hi. Lovely to have you all with us. Now, I have a feeling that a few of you might tune in tonight to ask questions and see what's going on in the world and to know what I know. And I'm going to be honest with you, I know very little. And that's not just about the current create and craft situation. That's most of life, in fairness. So I can't tell you too much or know too much to actually tell you. Obviously, you know, last week when we were live, we introduced you to our brand new Floral Wonder collection and told you that that would launch on Tuesday and Wednesday. We didn't know at that stage, but Create and Craft went on off air on Friday, and our shows, I believe it was Friday. I say these days like I remember. I can't remember yesterday, but they went off air, and we didn't manage to do our shows on Tuesday and Wednesday. We are provisionally, I suppose is the right word to say, booked in to of course go back to Create and Craft as soon as they reopen. We're very hopeful that they will reopen, and I know that they're working very hard to get back to being with us, and we're really genuinely hopeful that that will happen and that we will get back to being with you on Create and Craft. And our one day special of the Floral Wonder collection is absolutely ready to go, and we're really looking forward to sharing that with you. Tonight was going to be about showing you more samples and more demos from that collection, but because we haven't released it as yet, I don't want to tease you further with something you can't quite get your hands on yet. It is a situation we're reevaluating all of the time, and if we feel the need, then we will potentially release it in other formats, in other platforms and other ways. But at the moment, we're really trying to hold out because we want to support Create and Craft when they do get back up and running and take this release to them and hopefully reach you all that way. So we'll just bear with us on that one a little bit. But tonight, because I told you I'd be here Thursday at 7, and that is our new concreted in place time, unless I am off on TV or holidays maybe. Holidays, Pete, do you remember what they are? Holidays? No. But unless we're absent for a reason, a good reason, then we'll be here on Thursdays at 7 to give you a bit of inspiration. So tonight is no different. We are going to revisit some of our collections that we've released, answer your questions as always, and do a few demos to hopefully give you a little bit of inspiration. Now, I've been very rude in my waffling and not said hello to anybody, so let's just check in and see who we've got with us. Good evening, Jane, lovely to have you with us. Good evening, Jill, lovely to have you here too. Good evening, Pat, and hello, Jean, and lovely to have you with us as well, Mary. Thank you all for being part of this evening. It's lovely to be with you all, and hopefully we'll have a bit of a chat and play around a little bit and see what we can create. So then, should we delve on in and have a look at our first demo? Now, as I mentioned, if you have any questions, and this isn't about Create and Craft or any of that, but you can if you want. I've pretty much told you everything I know, being 100% truthful with you. But if you've got any questions about products or techniques or anything in which I can help you with, then I'm here, and we've got about an hour together, and if I can help, I will. So please don't hesitate to fill the comments with your questions. We have Pete on hand, not only to catch the questions that I miss, because I'm not very good at reading the little screen and talking to you, terrible at that. He's also on hand to run and get anything I need if you ask me about a technique or a product. If I've got it here with me, then he can find it and we will have a little go at that. So just yell and we'll have a play. Let's have a little look then and see what I thought we'd start off with tonight. Now, I've got some very quick demos for you. We didn't move. I hit the button. We didn't move. Let's try that again. Oh, there we go. So we've got some very quick demos to do this evening and talk to you about. starting off with this very quick and simple card. Not every card has to be a huge complicated creation, so I thought it might be nice to do something quite basic and quite easy. I can see I've got a question from Mary. Question, are the foilables already foiled, or do you have to foil them yourself, please? I'm glad you've put the name of them because I can never remember them. I always get it wrong. I can tell you they are already foiled. We don't need that one. That's a great question. Thank you for asking. But they are already foiled. So the minute you take them out of the packet, like so, I expected that then to have a little bar in it. I don't know where the little bar's gone. I've lost the little bar. But when they come to you packaged, they are already foiled and they are already there to use. Now that actually looks... Doesn't that look kind of impressive that I knew that question was coming? I swear I didn't. I knew nothing. But they are coming up in a demo if we get that far this evening. So hence why I've got them to one hand. But they are foiled ready. And that's great. If you've not seen the foiled inkables before, here I go again changing the names because I don't think that's what they're actually called. But if you've not seen these before, they're great at resist techniques, which is something we might try and have a little play with because we can add inks to them and misters and bits like that. And where the foil is, it will repel it so that you end up with the silver and the gold foil coming through, but we end up with that really cool background colour or change of colour depending on what product we add to them. Now, if we was using alcohol inks and bits like that, then they, of course, would cover the foil too. So this is when we're talking about dye-based inks and sprays, water-based products as such. That's no problem. I'm happy to help. It does save us digging out our foiling machines, doesn't it? Hello, Susan. Lovely to have you with us. Hello, Sue. Lovely to have you here as well. Evening, Deborah and Wendy. Lovely to have you all here. Pete, are we feeling better?
I am, thank you very much. Thanks, Wendy.
He's alive and kicking. And
I'm good.
90%. It rarely gets above 90%, to be fair. But no, he's a lot better. Thank you for asking. He had a bit of a sniffle last week, didn't you? So it's lovely to have you back with us. So card then, this is the one that we're going to play with. Very, very simple creation. So let's delve in and have a little look at what we're actually going to be playing with. So we're going to play around with a few different bits and bobs. We are going to be using the Kaleidoscope Segments die set. We are going to be using the Elegant Butterflies die set. We're also going to bring into the mix the Congratulations die set. And on top of that, we're also going to play around with some of the nested square dies, but I'll talk to you about those in just a second. Now, it is worth mentioning that, of course, you can get all of these from our stockists. The important bit that I haven't done yet. Stockists, are you with us? If you are here with us this evening, please pop a link in the comments to let us know that you are here with us. And of course, if you would like to link to our brand page or your home page as such, then please do so. And of course, all of us who are watching would love to know that you're with us and that you have got our products in stock. Now, I'm really chuffed today, actually, and I'm waffling, aren't I? I told you I'd do this demo and I'm not even doing it. Really chuffed today. We managed to announce that we have got a brand new stockist in Australia. Australia! If you haven't seen that today, I know that's a bit of an impressive one, isn't it? We haven't started small. We said for a while that we'd be launching or supplying international stockists, and we've got many plans and lots that will be revealed in the coming weeks. But we jumped in feet first and went to just about the furthest point we could get to, and we are now supplying a lovely store and a lovely lady called Zena in Western Australia or West Australia. I'm trying to remember the name of the company now because it's gone. Gumnuts Guest House, yes. And we put up a poster. Oh, you're showing off now. I've typed the address about 10 times there and you think I would remember it and I can't remember it. But it is. There is a post on the page. So if you scroll down a little bit, if you would like to purchase and you're in Australia, then of course, brilliant. Lots of our stockists do, of course, send internationally. So if you're anywhere else in the world, then do not fear. We have stockists that will supply you too. But if you are in Australia, then of course, that would be very nice of you to help support Zena and her lovely company there too. Once again, any other stockists who are watching tonight, please pop in the comments. I know Zena's not with us. Apparently it's 2 a.m. in Australia. 2 a.m. in Australia. So she's in bed. I don't blame her. So let's have a little look at this card, shall we? So we're going to start off by cutting our outside square. So we're going to bring in our plain squares. I mentioned we would play around a little bit with our nesting squares. So we're going to start off with this one and we're going to bring in some of our pierced ones to go with them. Now, Peter, please let me know if I've missed any questions because I am at this stage going off and not looking at my little screen. So please yell if I miss anything.
Well, Andrew's asking if we'll be releasing any other colours of 8x8 card ranks.
Oh, wow. There is a story to our 8x8 card blanks, and why this is going through the machine, I'll bring you up to date on that one. So all I'm going to do is work out which sizes I want, and this is a bit of a rough one here just to show you them cutting really. So I'm bringing in the scalloped set, and I'm adding the pierced details from the scalloped set onto the inside of my plain square. Now for the card we're actually making, I used the stitches and I stopped with one line. But I thought tonight we'd play things slightly differently and we'll bring in a few of the lines, because this is the joy about having separate pierced lines to outside cutting edges. We can choose just how many we do or don't bring into the party. So we might skip one there, mostly because I can't see where I've put it. The amount of things I'm losing at the moment, I'm divided between so many places with prepping and different bits, that there's parts everywhere in all of my world. And it looks like that square might be one of the bits that's gone away. So we'll bring in some white card. We're going to use our polar white card and we'll place that on the top and we'll send this through the machine. So as I mentioned, card blanks. We would love to do some more card blanks. It is something that we are very much working on behind the scenes. Being truthful with you, we went to a supplier for our pebble grey cardstock and our pebble grey card blanks. And that supplier did us one production run and then said they could do no more, sadly. So we were kind of left without the ability to add to that collection. We have got in contact with a new company, and it is something that we're hoping to work on and be able to bring you, not immediately, but in the not too distant future equally. Card blanks to me that match with our cardstock is really important, and it's something I really want to get us back to being able to supply to you. With this in mind, pebble grey card blanks, when they're gone. So if you are like me and you love those card blanks, you can see I do. They're dotted around behind us and everywhere. And there's a lovely card over here. Can we reach this one? I love this card. This one was done by Lynn using our pebble grey card blanks, and I really like it with the decadent ivory and our romantic red, and I just think this works really nicely. I also like the way she used the decollete edge squares on the insides and the outsides of the frames and the stitch lines too. I thought that looked really lovely. But if you do like those, get hold of those while we've got them left, because we are down to nearly single figures. So we're going to take away our panel, and of course don't forget, whenever I talk about numbers and stocks, I talk very much as what we have in our warehouse at Jamie Rodgers Crafts. So even when our little stockpile of these is dwindled completely, do check with the stockists. We put a stockist list on the website intentionally for this. I know some of them may well have them in stock, so do a bit of homework and have a little look and see if you can track them down once they've gone. And like anything, if it goes, check out the stockists. That's what they're there for. Okay, so back to our panel. We have already gone ahead and we have cut this and we have pierced it. Peter, we've left the light on again.
Oh, that's you,
that is me. Pete's just going to turn the light off so that we can try and cut down on the shadows, because if we leave the proper lights on, we end up with lots of shadows. So if the lights change, please forgive me. It's my fault. One week I will remember that, but I never do. So now that we have our pierced detailings running around our project, we can start moving up on this card to create the next pieces. So I'm going to get rid of all of those dies off my board for the second. We'll bring back in our board and we'll start looking at our Kaleidoscope segments. Now I am sure that lots of you have seen these already. I know that lots of you own this set, and I've been seeing an awful lot of creations. We shared one with you today, and I'm going to try and remember times again. I think it was 1 o'clock we're doing this, but every day at 1 o'clock this week we're sharing a different creation made by one of our customers or viewers. I don't know what really to say. People, one of our followers, I don't know if that's right either, one of you lovely lot. And today we shared one done by Joanne, I believe that was today, and she's got some really pretty pink flowers on the panel and some beautiful foliage, but we're going to be sharing one every day at 1 o'clock. I really like to share with you what you're all creating. It's one thing sharing with you what I'm doing and our design team's doing, but actually when we put the products out into your hands and you start creating with it, that's actually my favourite bit of the job, because it's seeing what you create and where you take it and what you do with it. So yeah, keep an eye out for them posts too, because it's really lovely to see different people's ideas. So we're going to bring in this set and we're just going to use a couple of the panels. So we're going to use one of the outside edges and we're going to bring in one of the insert panels. And I haven't used this one as much as I should have. So we're going to look at the lovely striped section and we'll send this one through the machine just so you can see how this one's cut, if you've not seen it done before. And at the same time, actually, while we're doing this, we will cut another panel with just some gold mirror card. so that we've got something to put behind it when it's come through. So let's see if we can find a darker colour of card than I was planning to put on top of that. So we'll use this part for our triangles, and we'll use our filigree sort of triangles, and we'll use the gold for our solid triangle as such, or section, I should call them. Let's have a little look at what we've got going on in the comments. Oh, lovely to see that we've got Affordable Crafting with us this evening. Good evening, Mandy. Lovely to have you with us. Good evening, Jamie. I'm another Zena. That's lovely. Lovely to have you with us, Zena. I love that name. That's such a lovely name, isn't it, Zena? I used to love working with Zena at Hobbymaker. Not just because of her name. She's just a genuinely really lovely person. But it is a lovely name for a lovely person. So let's have a little look. What else have we got going on here? Have I missed Maureen? Peter, you're my reader. What are you doing to me? Join in with me. I'll interrupt away. I will waffle for England, Pete, so don't hesitate.
She loved visiting your shop. She said, I was so excited. She was excited.
Was she? Yeah. Oh, that's lovely to hear.
Lovely to meet her. I wonder how their evening out went.
Where were they going?
Well, they didn't know. It was
oh, okay.
Evening, but they didn't know where they were going.
Oh, that's right, because I said I reckon they were going to Firstford.
Yes, that's right.
That is correct, isn't it? So, Maureen, did you end up at Firstford? Or I don't even know if Firstford has started yet. I know that for anybody who's not local to us, Firstford is a amazing, well, it's a steam engine museum, isn't it? I believe. Oh, I'm terrible. I honestly don't know nothing. I've been there. I should know this. But I believe it's a steam engine museum in Cromer Way, and they do an amazing spectacular every Christmas, like a variety show. And I don't know if that's started yet, and if that's where you were heading to. If you're wondering what we're on about, Maureen, bless her, was on our live last week and said that she was coming to Great Yarmouth on holiday, and then she went in as CP and said that she was going to variety evening and didn't know what the variety evening was or where it was. So was it Firstford, Maureen? You'll have to let us know. So we've gone ahead and we've got our two panels. We're going to take the stripy part, and I've taken some glue. I've put it out onto a tile or a mat, doesn't really matter which. I'm using my glue. I've added some glue onto the edge of the foam. This is a foam disc I saved just for this job, so you might be able to see it's literally solid with glue. I don't mind that because it just means I can pick the glue up, I can take it and add it over the top here of my panel. It's a way of me being able to glue delicate pieces without having to put glue out onto my hand. Not that I mind doing that, but I always think it looks bad when I'm on camera or lives or whatever. So if I can, I will do this instead. It's slightly neater. And it's also easier when we're covering larger areas. So if you've got something like the Cosmos panels and you wish to go across the back of those, then this can be a real game changer to get into all them filigree areas really easily without you having to load it or spend hours going around with a bottle trying to put them all down. And if you just save this one, then you can use it time after time. The trick is, remember not to leave it sat in the glue, because I do that too often, and then it's a pain to try and get it back off of the tile, but I leave a designated sort of thing. Here in my little craft room upstairs, I have a little holder to keep the thing in and a tile on top, so it's ready for each live, so I don't end up sticking one to the other again. It'll happen. I guarantee you that we'll go live one week and that will be stuck to the tile, but that's the fail-safe plan I've got in mind to try and prevent that from happening. So we have our gold now shining through from behind our black panel, and the idea with these, if you've not seen them before, is that you bring in 8 sections and you place them together in a circle to create a card, something similar to this. Now, you don't have to build it out in this way, and this isn't what we're doing for the demo we're doing at the moment, but it shows you what the intentional idea of the Kaleidoscope segments is. So what we're going to do with them is we're going to use them slightly different. We're going to use them as corners. We're not even going to use the back plate to them, although I've shown you how that works. We're not actually going to be using that. I just think it's nice for you to see how all of the pieces come together. We are instead going to go onto the square that we have been cutting. Now, for this one that we just cut, I did add in quite a few more details. I wish I had a thought of that when I did this one, actually, because it might have been quite nice to have more lines coming through in the central areas. But not to fear, we've got this one pretty done, so we'll carry on with this one, and we'll bring back in our tile and we'll add a bit of glue to these sections. Now, have we got any more comments, Peter? Let's have a little look. Any news for us? Has Maureen confirmed or denied if it was Firstford?
No, we've got a Jan Jones. It's lovely to see you.
Oh,
this is your
Jan!
Peterborough studio days.
Jan Jones. You were probably, I don't know if you ever met Jan actually. Jan, and I'm trying to remember what the company name was at the time because I've got a memory like a fish. She was with Keith. She would go on with Keith on his shows. Camban Keith, yeah, Camban Keith. But I don't know if he was Camban Keith at that time. In my mind, he's always been Camban Keith and will always be Camban Keith. But I can't. It changes, doesn't it? So I can't remember. But Jan's lovely. She's adorable. So it's lovely to have you with us, Jan. Thank you for joining us. And I miss you too. I used to love our little chats. We was always causing mischief in one place or another. So lovely to see you. What, me causing mischief? Yeah, that's quite a current or continuous problem in our world, isn't it? So just taking 2 of these sections for each of the corners. I've not given you a size yet, have I? I must do that. Now I'll explain a little bit about the square. So I'm going to have to do it in centimetres. No, I'm not. I've got another one. Here it is. I always get confused between them. So centimetre wise, 17 centimetres. In inches, we are looking at just over 6.5 inches, literally the next bump along, whatever that makes it. So not too large and could be shrunk down slightly. I've gone ahead and added little pearls in between the points just to break up that area. You could, if you wanted, back these and then even slightly overlap them as you go into the sections to make it look more like a pocket or an envelope that's going to open. You could, of course, pad these on instead and actually tuck things into them if you wish. Or you could just have one corner, build something coming out from it, or you could use them as photo corners and hold something behind it. So many options really. And again, we're looking at a card format for this, but it could easily be taken off into the world of scrapbooking or journaling if you prefer to do something bigger and bolder with this concept and idea. So on to our actual card blank, we're going to use a store-bought as such 8x8 card. And I mentioned that because of, I don't know if they're all the same everywhere, but the ones we tend to get are slightly under 8 inches. The envelope is 8 inches, the card is slightly below it. So this is about 7¾ inches for your actual card blank, but heading into an 8x8 envelope. Wendy, I thought the ink pad idea is brilliant. What have I missed? Is this me? Am I being silly? Did I waffle about ink pads and I forgot about it already? Well, I'm glad you like it, Wendy. If it was from me, if it was somebody in the comments and I've missed it, sorry to steal your thunder or your credit. Jean, that's a great tip for the glue. That's lovely. It's what we're here for. Give you a few ideas. Let's have a little look. Brilliant idea, Judith. Glad to hear it. Lovely to have you with us, Valerie. Jan's Kanban. Oh, good. I'm glad you're here to tell me it was Kanban because I've never got a clue. Honestly, I get so confused with times and what happens in the world. So we'll take our next panel and we will layer this one up on top. I knew I'd be late. I really need a reminder. Sorry. Linda, I've seen that you wrote a comment about reminders. Is that a Facebook thing we can do? Again, I show my lack of knowledge here. I have no idea what we're doing half the time, especially with technology. Is there a way that we can set reminders for you on Facebook? Do other people do that? Am I missing something? Let me know. If it exists and it's possible, then we'll work out how to do it. But I'm always 5 steps up behind with technology. Speaking of which, and something to let you know on, we had a couple of you ask, could we put the lives onto YouTube? They've literally been completed today, I believe, but we'll launch them tomorrow so that we don't confuse everybody with multiple me waffling in different places all at once. That's not what the world needs. One place, one time, bad enough. But tomorrow we will launch the last 2 Thursday 7 p.m. What do we call these things? Thursday night now? That's it, Thursday night now. We'll put the last 2 up for you. So if you do want to watch them back and you've not seen them, maybe if you missed last week's, you might want to have a little look at the Floral Wonder collection, which we will launch as soon as we can. But you could have a little look back at that one if you missed it. So we are trying to move with technology. So if there is some sort of reminder thing, I will Google it later if you don't get back to me. But if we can do it, we will do it. We'll have a little look.
Yes, they do.
Do they? See, she's got to it quicker than I've stopped waffling about it. So that's good to see. What else is going on in the comments, Pete? What else have I missed?
Wendy meant a glue pad.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm glad. Good. I'm always worried that I've lost the plot and not completely with it. So moving up into our middle panel, again, plain edges for the squares, stitch details being put into that one to coordinate. And this time we're down to just under 7 centimetres for this panel and just over 2 3/4 And I've just realised this is what happens when I try and work and talk. I've missed a panel. We'll bring this one in and we'll add this one down first, shall we? We can't miss out on the navy. Now the colour, by the way, we're working with Polar White Elite cardstock and we are working with Night Sky Navy. So we're going to bring that in and we're going to place that on top of here. This foam tape is great for that. The amount of times I miss a layer or forget something and I can still sort of peel it away and bring it back, which is kind of handy. We're then going to add on our little congratulations banner at the bottom here. The congratulations does actually come with this banner, so that is one set that we've stuck with. Now obviously there are 5 different sets currently, and you can certainly interchange between the sentiment and the banner, but this time we're actually sticking within one set. There will be more sets coming. I have gone on about this a little bit already, so you're probably bored of listening to me waffle about it, but there will be another 15 sets in time that you will be able to interchange between the 5 that are already out and the 15 that are coming. And their sizes and bits will change slightly, but it will give you the chance to have bigger or smaller panels and of course fonts that will take you throughout the whole year, which is quite nice. Always nice to know what's coming and to know that you're building a collection. Then we're going to go in with a butterfly and we're just going to place that down in the centre, checking now, panicking that I've made the card the right way around. There we are. And we'll add the little butterfly to the middle there. Now on my finished one, I have added some ribbon, but nobody wants to watch me tie ribbon. I always say this on TV and I'll stick to the same line on lives because you could be here for the whole hour just watching me tie ribbon and no one needs that in life. But if you wanted to finish that off with a nice ribbon, that could really complete the look. If you would prefer, you could put another colour coming through from underneath the sections. Even mirror card, nice silver mirror card might be quite nice. I've chose to add quite a lot of pearls that you might not be able to see too clearly onto the little sections, which again just brings in a different dimension and a bit more prominence to them. And that completes our first card. Now, if anyone has any questions, please let me know. I hope that one was quite simple, really. Nothing too technical from me this evening. But if you've got any questions, I'm here to answer them. So please don't hesitate to pop them in the comments and I'll do my best. And I'll give you a little flash of that one at the end when we go back to that one. Linda, I could listen to you all day. Your voice is so soothing. I don't know if Pete agrees, but thank you. No, you wasn't going to read that one out, no, Pete. No, I think you possibly on lives and bits get the soother end of the deal, and Pete possibly gets the more sort of whinging and nagging that possibly doesn't come across as quite so soothing. So he might not quite agree. He gets all the yells of the where's this and where's that. And I don't know if we'll get to it tonight, but literally 2 minutes before we went live, in possibly something you wouldn't predict, I was screaming at him and asking for talcum powder. So yeah, you never really know around here what for a card. It wasn't for anything else. It's for a card, but if we get to that technique, it'll all come clear. But yeah, he gets the rough end sometimes of me yelling about different things that I send him off in search for. So yeah, poor boy.
Julia was just asked about if you're doing some more construction cards.
Oh,
She loves your cards anyway.
I love to do construction cards, but it is very much at the rate of the ideas I come up with. And being honest, and you're probably all the same. So it's a confession, but it's possibly a fellow confession that you all have. If I can't sleep, I lay awake and think of what different constructions we can make. And I spend endless hours trying to think of a fold or a style or a construction I've not seen done, or a variation on something I have potentially seen that we can do different in some format. So it's very much at the rate the ideas come to me, then we go off on them. And it's like everything in life, isn't it? Sometimes you come up with sort of 5 ideas in one go. Like when we started playing with the pillars and we started doing the, what did we call them? The tower pillar? I think it was tower pillar cards, but he's got one behind him. But the tower pillar cards, you come up with one idea and it sparks off 10 others, doesn't it? And this was sort of one of those moments in time when we sort of come up with a concept and then ran with it in different ways. And it's kind of that idea, really. So if I come up with a concept and I think of it, then we'll run off and show you those. So absolutely, I love construction. One of my favourite things to do is to build different formats and ideas. And I think possibly as we add to more dies and more of our nesting dies, which are coming, then there's more ideas we can do with them and you'll see more construction in those. So yeah, absolutely, there's going to be more coming. It's just at the rate of ideas as I think of them, to be honest. It's always fun trying to keep up with your own thoughts, isn't it, and where they're going to go.
Mary hopes you have some sleepless nights.
Yeah, I have enough of them, don't worry. There's always something running through my mind about what I want to be doing or what I should be doing or what I can be doing. But I do love construction, so there will be more of that coming, I promise. So let's have a little look at what we're doing next. So we're going to take our stencil. I haven't even shown you the card, have I? So this is the one that we're going to do next. This is one of my favourite cards to play around with because it's just a really fun and easy technique. So we're going to take our stencil, and I should know the name of this. I've got it here somewhere. Oh, look at Pete knowing his stuff. Go on then, wow me with the product code.
ARCST0020.
Incorrect. Yeah, 15. So you weren't far off. Well, yeah, it is one of our early ones, one of our first collection, I believe, which is what I love because of not all the time do we get a chance to go back and show you different ideas with bits we've done. And I really want to try and get to the point where I've got a bit of time to show you ideas with mixing the collections. This is always tricky because we bring the collections out as separate collections and you see them in them sort of blips as such or them times. But actually when we start building collections together and going back through different bits, to me, that's when real magic happens. You look at something like the snowman, which I've forgotten, Rodney, of course, Rodney the snowman, and you think of putting him on the front of the Kaleidoscope segment dies. You know, they were two collections apart, but actually bringing them together, I think that works really nicely. The Floral Wonder collection, I'm really looking forward to having that script stamp to work with in more products and ways. And this is tricky for a new brand because we don't have endless back catalogues of stuff to bring forward all of the time and show you ways to use them. So we're getting a bit bigger, we're going a bit longer, we are getting more and more of a back catalogue. I think we told you last week we're up to 180 products and it's starting to bring those back together and showing you new concepts and ways we can use them. So we'll certainly be able to do that more as time goes on, I'm hoping. It is, and it goes a bit back to the sleeping bit, it's just how many hours are in the day to make all of it happen. There's never enough hours for all of the ideas you've got or I've got running through my head. So on to our embossing of our stencil. I love doing this. It's something you've probably seen me do lots of times. We're going to bring in a cutting plate. We're going to add on our stencil. We're going to put down on top of that card so that the card is face down on top of the stencil. And we're going to add on top of that a rubber mat. The rubber mat will go through or push down on the card and into the apertures on the stencil. And that will then emboss this for us. If you've never embossed a stencil before, to me it's an amazing ability to get much more value for money out of your stencils than just treating them as a stencil because it turns them really into embossing folders. They're more like the traditional 2D embossing folders than what we've sort of up to now or used to now are 3D folders. But to me, the value for money with a stencil and the different things we can do with a stencil and then the ability to emboss, really, I think that's a great way to open new ideas and create new styles. So this has gone through and it has perfectly embossed for us. So if we give you a little flash of this, you can see it at the stage. There is our embossing done. That's the depth we've managed to achieve. Now we could work on the front or the back of this, the choice is ours. And because if we're working with a stencil, we can flip it to whichever side we want to actually work on the deboss or the emboss. But we are going to go for the emboss side and we're going to add some colour to this. So I haven't yet and I should have, but I might even go as far as taping this in place for a minute. So we'll bring in a little bit of tape to hold this down. It's slightly wonky, I'm not worried about that because we would be trimming this out once it's complete. Obviously I'm working on an A4 piece of card, so my card wouldn't be big enough to have mats and layers with this as the size it is. So I'm going to be trimming it down a little, so I'm not too worried about if it's slightly wonky because we're going to trim away the excess. So we're going to bring in some inks and we're going to work with, tonight, I felt we would play with some Simon Hurley inks just because these are the first ones I found when I was packing bits to come upstairs today. So I'm going to work with Crown Me, which is one of Simon Hurley's lovely inks. These are a dye-based ink and I'm sure our stockists will have these available for you. But of course we could be using makeup inks, distress inks. There's so many dye inks out there on the market. It's just down to the colours really, to which ones are your favourites. But I do love the names for the Simon Hurley inks, and I do also, of course, like how they work. I find they blend really lovely, and you can do a lot with them as a dye ink. Oh, Chrissy's late. Don't worry about that. That's never a problem. We start at 7, but you join in and you watch when you want and you know, come and go as you wish. You know, me waffling on for endlessness is possibly something the world doesn't need in their life. So don't ever worry. You join in and come and go as you wish to. Don't apologise. Evening amigo. Oh, I like that. Have I missed any other comments, Pete, while I'm blending?
Regine says, like to know about the fan cards. But I was trying to work
Oh.
out what that is.
What's a fan card, Jane?
I didn't know if it was a Wendy ad business. I'm trying to work out like a typo or something. Or,
No, I have more faith in our Jane.
Wendy?
No, no, Peter, no. Don't go getting me in trouble with me, Wendy. Oh, get me in trouble. But no, I have faith that Jean's on it and will know. So Jane, please let us know, what's a fan card? What are we not telling you about? What can we tell you about? So I'm going to go in now and I'm going to add some green. This is Later Gator. And I'm going to go over just some of the leaves, foliage basically, and pick out a few of these pieces. Now you can spend a lot more time on doing this. When I did my original, I actually bought in a piece of card and masked off different bits. This actually wasn't my plan, but this could actually work quite nicely. You could certainly pick the areas you want to go to. Certainly nothing I'd ever planned before, but you could work through the aperture that you've created with a die if you want to, but mask off and use different pieces. But you don't want to watch me spend forever doing this. So we're going to be a bit more generalised and add in the shading where we feel we need to. And if we end up with a slightly green flower or a slightly purple leaf, I don't think it's the end of the world. We're building a style more than an exact pattern, if that makes sense. So we'll add them down. I think I've done all of my leaves as we can see them, and we'll go on for a different shade. When I did my original, talking colours, I was working with, they're here somewhere, wild honey, seedless preserves, and the green, which I think is evergreen something, evergreen. It'll come to me in a minute. I can never remember Distress Ink names. They always go out of my mind at the worst times. I know them till I go to say them, and then it's gone. But yeah, play with your Distress Inks or these ones, whichever you prefer. That's definitely a dirty brush. Let's look for a clean brush. My pink really isn't coming out pink, so let's try again. This one is Piggy Pink from Simon Hurley that we're adding on, and I've really looks a lot worse on camera than it does here, but it looks like I've turned it really blue. It's not as blue as that, I promise. But I am forever contaminating ink pads. Did I call it Piggy Pink? I always call it Piggy Pink. It's not called Piggy Pink. That's our ink pad, Piggy Pink. This one is Piggyback. There's too many piggies. You can see by this that when you get to calling a pink ink pad a name, it ends up being pig related. I don't know why. What's that about? That isn't coming out as much as I want it to. So we're going to change to bee sting and end up with a bit of red. I think Jean's answered our question about the fan card, Peter. What's she say? Read it out. Come on.
What comments you're seeing?
Oh, can you not see it? I'll stop. Have you got it? Do you mean the card we held up, Jean? The tower pillar card? I shouldn't do lives because I show how silly I am, because I can never think of things. I'm always about 4 steps behind with them.
So it's a square tent fold. The top section is folded triangular. Then bundle a fan on the triangle bit, I think.
Bundle a fan?
Chrissy Cole is the champion of making odd cards.
She is. She makes them amazing. Oh, not some amazing. She makes lots of amazing cards. I don't know of this card, I'm afraid, Jean. That is not one I'm aware of. It might be hid in the deep depths of my mind, but it's not one that's come into mind. But I will investigate after we are finished. That is the joys of Google. I will have a little look and see what I can find and see if we can bring you some inspiration with that fold or that style in the future, because it's new to me. That is the thing. There are so many incredibly talented crafters and designers and brands that you blink and you can miss 10 ideas, and it's never easy trying to catch up and be up to date with everything that everyone's doing. But I'll have a little look and see if I can find that one later. May, do you prefer to use blending brushes rather than smoothies? being honest with you, May, both have different purposes in my mind. I don't know if they're necessarily intended to, but I find with a smoothie, and I don't know if I got one here to show you. What I mean, I might have one. Pete, have a little look in my trolley. Oh, I've got one, don't worry. So a smoothie, if you're watching and you're not too sure what a smoothie is, smoothies are little sponges that are great for blending. And these are brilliant, they really are brilliant. But I would use this more for going around the edges or blending over a whole background. If I bring this into what I'm doing at the moment, because I've got quite sharp bits on this stencil, as stencils do, I know I'm going to pluck the smoothie in different areas. So when I'm doing something across a stencil, I tend to go for blending brushes. And then if I'm going around the edges to edge card, I would tend to use a smoothie. So it's one of them, I think you've got different, or I have different jobs in mind for different ones. And you do kind of end up collecting lots of things that kind of say they do the same thing, but I feel I end up doing different things with each of them, if that makes sense. There's also, and I don't know if I bought one of those up today, another favourite I like is a skinny mini brush, which I haven't got one up here to show you, but they're a creative expressions brush. And being honest with you, they look a little bit like a toothbrush. They're long and they're thin and they've got lots of little bristles on the end of them. They're nothing like a toothbrush when you actually come to work with them. They just look like one when you see them in the packet. But those have got, where these are very thin, delicate bristles that blend brilliantly, to me they're slightly harsher bristles, and you kind of get a different finish with them, and you can use them more with sort of creamier inks and paints and bits like that. To me, again, I think every crafter's got their different reasons for using different products, but those are something I quite like to use, and you'll often see me sort of bring those out. And again, if I'm trying to get really good coverage over a stencil with paints and bits, then I will tend to use them. I also like working with stipple brushes. Stipple brushes can be really good, whether they're sort of a traditional stipple brush or something along the lines of like Lisa Horton's style stipple brushes. Those are great, especially at blending on different colours. And if you want to create a bit more texture when I'm inking, I'll load that up and then literally dab with it or stipple with it to create a different level of ink or different kind of ink over the top of what I'm doing. So yeah, really play around and experiment with different mediums and bits and see how you get on. You can get those pencil type stencil brushes too. Yeah, Mary, they're the ones I'm on about. They're exactly the ones. Have I missed anything else, Pete, while I'm doing this? So we've done our blending and I've gone for some very different colours, but that's fine because that's what it's all about. Then for my panel and project, I would bring in a pen and I would just use, this is just an ordinary gold gel pen, and I would start bringing in some stitch marks going around the flowers or dot marks going around those, and adding in some detail into the middles of the flower too. Now, something you might not know about this stencil is the elements found within the stencil. So the flowers, for instance, are the same flower designs as the Forget Me Not flower die, and the leaves are the same as the leaf set. I think they were called gracious leaves, and the butterflies are the same butterflies that you will find within the elegant butterfly set. So if you bring this one in, for instance, you can see this is that one, or that is this one, whichever way around, and you'll notice that they all match up with the dies. And I did this intentionally because you might want to bring in and 3D a die somewhere on here and know that it's going to match perfectly to the designs that are found within it. It's always really kind of got to me a little bit if I can't match things in, and that might not be literally building up on top of the project, but I might have this 3 pages in on a journal or 3 pages in on an album or on the inside of the card, and I want the flowers on the outside of the journal, the album, the whatever else to match in perfectly. So to me, it's nice if we can bring you the same designs running through multiple things. So with this one, we might add in a few lines to break up the butterflies, but this just genuinely is doodling, and you don't want to watch me doodle for hours. But I would bring in them little additions and carry on adding them on and playing around and build that up. If we skip to one I've already done, for speed, this is a panel that I've already created. So slightly darker in my colouring on this one, and going in the same direction actually, but when we bring in the card, you can see I've gone in the opposite direction. Again, something that's quite fun with a stencil is it's down to what way you put it down, to what side you're going to emboss it, and the direction of the pattern. And again, if you were doing a bigger project, or you wanted to do this throughout pages on an album, actually being able to have them looking at each other or maybe running around the sides of a box, this could be quite a cool way for you to be using them if you'd like to. So let's build in some other items, build these up a little bit. So we'll go on to our card blank to begin with, and we're going to bring in our card. This time we are working on, I'm getting messy again. I always get messy by the second card. We are working on a card that is 7.5, I think. Yeah, 7.5 inches. So this again would be a store-bought card that I have just trimmed down slightly to match in with my mats and layers. I've gone on with some gold mirror card as the next layer, which of course is one of our Jamie Rodgers Crafts gold mirror cards. We now do, I believe it's 7 colours of mirror card. Red, green, pink, blue, gold, silver, purple. Thank you, Pete. So for this one, I've used distress inks to do around the edges here. So this is seedless preserves that's gone around that layer. We're then going to bring in the panel that we've completed, and we're going to add this on again using some of our glue, just to make sure that's going to be nice and flat on that panel. And then we're going to build up some corners. So again, going ahead for speed, I've already done these, but I've bought the set of corners in, and this is of course our Regal Corners. I love these. There is so much we can do with these corner dies. There are 4 currently, and you might pick up on the word currently there, but there are 4 current designs in the corner collection. There is the Regal corner, the butterfly corner, the snowflake corner, and the Jolly Holly corner. All of these are great because we can do lots with them. They also all match in with the line die, which I don't know if I've bought in today, but there is a line die that can join them all together if that's something you would like to do. But we can cut these in lots of different ways. We can use just the sections and cut them into our card like shown in the middle here. We can use the outside X die to cut them as solid panels, or of course we can put the 2 together and we can cut them like I have here, so that we've got the filigree panel that can go over the backing panel so that we can build these up. Now, of course, I've blended in the same colours as which I've done my panel, so it's all going to coordinate perfectly. And with these ones, I've brought in my gold gel pen again, and I've added just a few dots on these so that they match in with the design in the background. We're going to bring these in and we're going to add them on. Mary, I've found that my plates mark my mirror card. If I put down some hammer card onto the mirror card, then run it through my die cutting machine, it sometimes gets rid of the plate marks and gives the mirror card a lovely finish. That's a lovely tip, Mary. That's a great one to share. Thank you very much. That's nice to know. Does the hammer card give it a slight texture? Does it look like it actually changes the mirror card texture up slightly? Because that could look quite effective. But it's a great idea. Again, I don't know which machine you're working with. I've got the Kit and Caboodle Pro Cut. Brilliant machine, incredible power, a genuine workhorse of a machine. Truly in love with it as it is, but it does have a lot of power to it. And yes, it can put marks on your card. So that's a great tip to change that and prevent it. Another one I tend to do is take down the pressure slightly by changing the mats around, which again can work quite nicely. Then we're going to add on a little finishing banner to this one. So I've gone ahead and I've got Thinking of You, and I've interchanged this. We've used the Thinking of You sentiment die, but we are using this on top of the Happy Halloween background die. So this is exactly what I mean about interchangeability. Different words, different backgrounds, mix them around as you wish to. And then for this card, because of I'm making this in the opposite to the one that we've done before, I'm going to place that down on this side over here. Now, when I made this card, I felt like it could do with a ribbon, but I felt I'd also done a lot of cards with ribbon recently, adding wraparounds on them. But if you wanted to add a ribbon around it, that could really finish it off, especially if it's got a bit of a gold fleck in it to match in with the gold found throughout the sort of additions we've added to the top of it. But a really lovely way to bring in your stencils, your inks, your Regal Corners, and of course your sentiments, and build them all up together. So that's demo number 2. How are we doing for time, Pete? I seem to have waffled an awful lot tonight.
Around about 50 minutes.
I reckon we could fit in another demo if you're all up for it. I can't see the comment about the mirror card. Fran, do you know why? Some of the comments on my page or on this come up as hidden, which is why I know Pete doesn't read them out. But I don't know.
Mary's comments, and I'm like,
Do you know? I don't know what Mary's done. I'm sure Mary's done nothing for the record. But whenever my lovely Mary Cook comments, it hides it, and I don't know why. So Mary, I'm sorry about that. I'll have a look into why. But I'm trying to unhide your comments. But Fran, it was Mary who put the comment in, but it's now on hidden. But if Pete doesn't read any, that's possibly why. But I'll try and keep up with it on my screen too. But I don't know why that does that. I really don't know a lot about technology. Technology is amazing and it's responsible for so many fascinating things, but me and it don't necessarily get on. I don't know, have any of you got Netflix? Have you watched the show yet with Bill Gates? Me and Pete have only just started it. We're a couple of episodes in, but talking about AI and genuinely some of the amazing things it's going to be doing and can create. They did a bit with talking about cancers and how it can predict what if you'll ever get cancer and how it will work. And it's genuinely mind-blowing stuff, scary stuff for some of it, but mind-blowing stuff. Fascinating show to watch if you've got Netflix. Feel a bit like Jonathan Ross giving out TV advice. Like I've got any, yeah, other streaming platforms are of course available, but we are slightly biased to Netflix, I won't lie. So let's have a little look. What one are we going to do next? What should we do? Let's have a little look. What would you all prefer? Should we do the Cosmos panel, the foiled inkables, or play with some talcum powder? Let's give you a minute to... Well, the talcum powder is a card, it's a project, it's a top tip. So you might like talcum powder, you might like foilables, or you might like Cosmos panel. I'm not going to show you the cards because we'll bring them back another week if not. But we'll give you a minute to have a little look. What's the show called, Chrissy? I've got no idea. It's in like the top 10 bit and it's got Bill Gates in the title. So if you search Bill Gates, I'm sure it'll appear. And he's got some famous people come onto it as well and talk about how technology is impacting their world. Lady Gaga's on it and the guy who did Titanic, and I can't remember, the director. Steven Spielberg, is it Steven Spielberg? Did Titanic? Oh, that's the one, James Cameron. See, I know nothing about anything. So we've got a request for the talcum powder one. It's a bit random, but we'll go and do that one. So I've got a kit for this. Let's have a little play. We'll dig in and see. Has any of you been watching the Mendes story? That again is on Netflix, and there's a very disturbing show, and then there is an interview. Me and Pete haven't yet got to the interview, but we have watched the show. That's very bizarre watching, very horrific watching, but that's a top 10 show as well at the moment. So trying to make so exactly, Fran, I agree completely. And in this show they talk about that actually. As I say, we're not very far into it. I don't want to ruin it if you haven't yet watched it, but they do talk a little bit about how they know that AI has got amazing abilities and it's got some very scary abilities, and how we've got to try and limit how we use it and what we do with it for the benefit of the world. And it genuinely is, as I say, we're not far into it. So where it'll end up as a show and what they'll decide or work with is, I don't know. But it's quite kind of interesting. Kind of, for somebody who doesn't understand a lot of technology, it's kind of eye-opening just what is achievable and what is going on in the world within technology and where that could end up. Let's have a little look. There's lots of... Oh, started watching that. James Cameron. Thank you, Fran. Somebody's got to keep me on track. There's me rewriting history for the old Titanic movie. What do I know, eh? So, on to our talcum powder technique, shall we? So, let's go back to our top bit here. So, I've already gone ahead, and this is a bit of a trick that I've been doing for many, many years, because it's something that I often struggle with, is having delicate dyes and being able to glue them all down really, really easily and quickly. And especially if I want to make up a background, I don't want to spend the next week gluing the backs of butterflies. Even with my little trick that I've been sharing with you tonight, it's still nice to have a bit of a hack, I suppose. So I'm going to deliberately go kind of wonky with these because I feel like there's a bit of wonkiness going up above. So we'll continue that down. And we're going to bring these in and we're just going to lay these over on different edges. Now, I'm not worried if the butterflies go over the edge. So I don't think I've told you, have I? I've taken a self-adhesive sheet. That's the bit I'm missing here. I've taken a self-adhesive sheet. I've put it onto a piece of polar white cardstock and I've trimmed it down to roughly A5, knowing I'm going to trim it down further than that once I've completed it. So I'm not worried again about the edges of where the butterflies are. But we're going to bring these in and I'm going to loosely lay them over the top here, just trying to roughly work out a bit of a pattern to see where we're going to go. We might put in a little half up there, knowing that we can take away that excess. We're then going to bring back in the lid, so the piece that was removed from the top. Now our brand, both sides are like wax, so it doesn't matter which side. Some brands you have to be careful because one side is paper and one side is wax. So just be careful with that if you've purchase other people's versions of self-adhesive sheets. We're then going to give this a good firm push down just to make sure that all of them butterflies take. Now the bit that obviously is now left in between the butterflies, that's still sticky because we've not added anything to cover it. And this is where the talcum powder comes into it, which might sound kind of random, and you might be thinking, I could do this with glitters, I could do this with different bits. Of course you can. Glitters are great for doing this technique with gilding flakes. Different bits like that that you could add on top would work just as well. But I don't always want sparkle, I don't always want glitter, I don't always want there to be another addition to my project. Sometimes I just want the butterflies to shine on their own accord and not be sort of have the show stolen from them. So we'll bring in a piece of paper and we're going to use some Johnson's talcum powder today. Ooh, posh stuff. And we're going to take this and we're going to put it over the top. And what we're going to do is just lightly rub this down like you would your glitters or your gilding flakes. And by just taking it over the top and putting it onto the self-adhesive sheet, we're of course taking the stick away from the self-adhesiveness. And it's going to end up that we can then continue to work on this project if we would like to, or we can just use this as our panel, but it will basically de-stick the self-adhesive sheet or cover the sticky bits on the self-adhesive sheet. Now talc can colour slightly the cardstock that we're working with. So we're working with, again, our Night Sky Navy cardstock. So you might notice it goes slightly lighter, but I don't mind that, that's not a problem. You certainly don't have to use this in this fashion if you don't wish to, but I think it's quite nice and I don't mind if my Night Sky Navy is taken down just slightly in its shading. We can then just tap off the excess. Of course we can pop this back into the pot if we would like to, but I've got a fair bit to go here for my card projects, so I'm not too worried about the bit we're left with, but we'll take that out the way. And then I would just give this a bit of a brush. So we'll use a blended brush for this because I've got one to hand, and take off the excess from around the edges. If you have got any that's gone into the cardstock, then again that will potentially brush that out for you and take you back to where you were. Now, as I mentioned, we can carry on working with this. Just because we've added them layers in place doesn't mean we have to stop. And one of the things I quite like doing is bringing in inks. So let's have a little look. I didn't do this for my finished project, but we'll have a little play with this while we can and add in some ink, just so you can see that this will work and we can add colour to it if we'd like to. So I'll try and rescue another piece of paper. You should really be working on a blending mat, but I don't think I've brought up a blending mat. So we will work with paper, it's not the end of the world. But we can go over the top and the talc will take on the ink. And this is just quite a nice way to then again soften down if you wish to, or add in some shading. If you wanted to, when you put your talc on to your project, you could sprinkle in small amounts of glitter, mica powder, gilding flakes to break it up slightly and to give a little bit of a fleck and a different dance in the background. But actually I think that could be quite a nice way to build up and stick these down and give you a different style. And you'll see that where the ink colours the talc, it does look slightly different. It doesn't look as nice on screen here than it does in reality, but you still end up with a whiteness coming through from underneath. So it's not like when you're blending around card, you do end up with more tones going over the talc because you're on different layers and that white is kind of protected. A question, could we use corn flour instead? Absolutely, if you would like to. I can't see any reason you couldn't. I personally haven't. I come up with the idea of talc and went off on that as a tangent and haven't really experimented with others. But yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't change that about if you didn't want to. Give it a try. To me, it's always, and I often waffle about this, the worst that can happen is we try it and it doesn't look quite as good, or it doesn't, depending on what you're doing, you might be trying to do the blending over the top of it and that might not blend quite so well. It's only a little panel if we just do an experiment. So always experiment and see how you get on. And if it, if it isn't brilliant, then it's not the end of the world, is it? So give it a try. I am now covered in talcum powder. I don't think you can see this, but where I tried to discreetly clean my desk and brush it on the floor, it's now all over me, which is just a great look, isn't it? Never mind. So we'll go on to our card, and on our card we have used a pebble grey card blank. Oh, where are we? There we are. So I've used a pebble grey card blank and I've cut down the front of it slightly. So the actual card blank itself is 20 centimetres by 20 centimetres. I have cut this front panel down to 15.5 centimetres. In inches, the cut down is 6.25 approximately. And then I've added on a piece of the night sky navy to match in with the panels. On the inside, I've brought back in the Regal Corners and I've added those round the panel, and again a piece of night sky navy underneath it. We'll then bring in a completed panel with our talc put over it. I've also added on some little pearls, and we'll place this onto the front of our card. Now I think I see a question about what butterfly is the one I'm using. Sorry, I see it and thought, oh, I'll come back to that in a second. The butterfly is the elegant butterfly. It's the same one that was featured in the background of the stencil and on the first card that we did. So it's from this set, and the one we are using is the biggest, which is this one here. But of course, you've got 5 others to choose from all in this one set. So back onto our panel, let's add this down on the front there. Mary's been hidden again. Come back, Mary. What about embossing static bag 2? You certainly could use an anti-static pad. That would potentially work in the same way, but you would have to take quite a lot of the powder in that out to cover it enough to remove the stick. I do have another top tip for you though, with an anti-static pad, if I can find my anti-static pad. And this one's quite a good top tip. Where have I hid my anti-static pad? Oh, I've got it, here we are. So this is a great top tip actually, and one I could have given you earlier and totally forgot about it, so we'll go back to it now. If you are working with dies that come in separate pieces, like a lot of mine do, and you have got an outside edge and then you have got a filigree panel, depending on the machine you're working with, you're going to want to send that through your machine, and you're going to want to make sure that nothing moves. You're going to want to make sure that cuts brilliantly. So we tend to bring in a low tack masking tape of some description. If you put these two together, so let's do it so you can see what I mean. We'll add that panel into the middle there, and we're going to put the tape over the back here. And I've been a little bit generous here with my tape, but it's not the end of the world. In the centre, sometimes this can stick, it can damage your project. Around the edges, sometimes it can stick to your card and it can damage the edges of your card. Now, different brands are available and some don't stick. Some say they don't stick, but do stick. So it depends on what one you're using to if this tip's going to help you. But if you've got an anti-static pad, bring that in and pad it over the top. Again, you could use your talc in theory, but just go over the top of it and it will take away the stick from these edges, so that now that's not going to stick to me, that's going to go. And it means that as it goes through your machine, these bits in the middles and around the edges aren't going to stick. And depending on the die you're using, that can really help save you, especially if you're putting together frames and bits and you want to protect the bit that's going to be in the middle of your aperture and you don't want it to stick or tear. But it will of course keep these two bits together, and then you can store them like this if you wish to, but you can still of course take them apart at a later date, and you can potentially even come back and line them up again where they were, because the sticky that was holding it in place is still going to be sticky. You can probably see there the lines from the middle where the anti-static has gone through onto it, but they're still left sticky around the edges to bring them two bits back together if I needed to. So hopefully that's a little tip that might help. Then onto the front here, we're going to bring in a happy birthday, and we're just going to foam pad this on. Now again, our happy birthdays, we have 4 circular sentiments out already. I'm not going to tell you there's more of those coming yet, because I haven't actually picked what the next ones will be, but I'm sure there will be more in the future, but we haven't yet got as far as to planning those ones out. But currently we have got happy birthday, we have got with love, Merry Christmas and a Happy Christmas. And Merry Christmas I know is currently sold out, but there are more due very soon. Do we have a date?
The next week or so, I believe.
About the next week?
Yeah.
Yeah. So watch out for Merry Christmas returning. The joys with these is they've all got different outside edges, so you can interchange between the edges, and the edges match the same edges as what you're going to find in the square nesting dies and the future nesting dies, so you can marry up and sort of mix in between. You'll also find that the squares that come with the corners, so when we looked at the Regal Corners earlier, and we're working with those on the inside here, you will have an edge that runs round each of the corners, and those edges again matching perfectly with the sentiments and matching perfectly with the nesting dies too. So everything comes together. It all hopefully coordinates out nicely to give you lots and lots of options. So as we're sticking together our last card, is there any questions that we need to answer before we leave these lovely people in peace. And if you haven't got any questions, then let me know and I will do my very best to answer them for you. So that adds into that and finishes this one off. Again, I have tied a little ribbon around my very finished example, just a little 3mm satin ribbon. I really am addicted to playing with ribbons. Ribbon is something we're looking to bring you again in the future, because I am slightly taken with ribbon, and adding that little finishing touch, whether it's a small ribbon like this one or a larger ribbon like this one. I do like adding them little finishing touches onto cards. I think it just sets them apart slightly and builds them up. And I think when you look at one with and one without, to me, there's quite a marked difference between them. So it's a personal thing, but I do like a ribbon. So I'd like to bring you some ribbons in time, but no current plans. You could, oh, Mary's hidden again. I feel so sorry for Mary. We're going to have to work out what's happening there. You could use that strip die too. That is handy. Yeah, absolutely, you could. Strip die would be a great addition to put onto that. And again, when we're talking about putting it in with the corners, that works too. Deeper sympathy would be lovely, please. Oh, maybe. Oh, not in circles. I can't say no more. But yes, sympathy is on the horizon, which doesn't sound good, does it? That's not a nice way to say anything. But yes, there might be something. I don't know. I'm going to stay quiet. But there might be something coming for that one. Have I missed any other questions, Peter?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Jean's just said something about lace. I can't even pronounce
Oh,
that
where
word.
are we? Oh, I know what the word is, but I can't pronounce it. They really show us up on these. Like, they're not intentionally, it's just our abilities. No, that isn't it. If Mum was here, she could help us. I know that. I know what we're talking about, but how we pronounce it, I don't know. I just don't know. So then, that gives us 3 projects that we've gone through this evening. Hopefully that's given you a little bit of inspiration. So just if anyone's joined us late and you haven't quite seen them, these are the 3 projects that we have completed this evening to hopefully give you a bit of inspiration. If you come to this live late and you've got any questions, then please let us know. Equally, we will be back next week for another one of these Thursday night natters. I can't tell you if you'll see me on TV or not before then, but keep an eye on the page. If Create and Craft return in time, or not in time, but if they when they come back, then we will appear with our one-day special and launch our Floral Wonder collection. And when things are a bit more concreted with that, then I will let you know. There's lots of exciting things going on here, and we've got a few other bits that we'll be sort of dropping in the next couple of weeks to sort of tell you about different bits as well. So keep an eye on our page for that one, because it's nice for you to see everything that's going on. But if there's no other, pardon, Sophie?
Is how you pronounce it.
Is it? How have you worked that out? Have they broke it down for us?
Yes, Christy has.
Thank you. Thank you, Chrissy. That I don't know if that is the one I was thinking about.
I'm
And
jealous that Kim's going for cheesy chips.
yeah, we haven't had dinner yet, so yeah, we ought to stop waffling and go and find some sort of food, hadn't we? But enjoy your cheesy chips. Thank you all genuinely for joining us. I don't take it for granted that you join us and spend your evening with us. It genuinely is lovely to have you here and to be able to chat with you all. So thank you very much for coming and being part of it this evening. And if you're late to joining us, then I hope you enjoy the lives. And don't forget, if you've missed the last 2 weeks, Thursday night natters, that will sink in eventually, then they'll be on YouTube as of tomorrow, so you can catch up with them as well. Thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you all again next Thursday at 7. See you soon.